sure that you've got it.
Okay. It's 5 o'clock on November 14th, calling the monthly meeting of the Bylaw Charter Review Committee to order. We have a quorum, full quorum. No public here, so if anyone shows, we'll ask them for their comments. Next is the review and approval of the minutes for October 10th, 2023.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Anybody have any comments or corrections? Again, great minutes there, Deb.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Okay, moving along. New business. Chapter 3. Tonight is the Select Board discussion of the charter. And Noreen, that was her section, so
That's-
she sent us a document of her thoughts.
Okay. So I will,
Just before we begin.
yeah,
Are we going to call in people who are responsible? Like town meeting is the clerk's office, correct?
The town meeting, the minutes are taken by, but it's basically the Board of Selectmen's warrant for town meeting.
Okay, all right, just curious.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll present these changes, whatever
So,
we have.
yes.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, just
And before
clarifying.
we start that, I have started drafting a preliminary report with some of the things so that we can send something, and we should, later on, we're gonna talk about some timing as to
Right.
when we should send this, because we're not gonna be done with all of this. So I think that there might be a, preliminary report of sections we have done or something.
Perfect. Okay, just curious. Thank you.
All right, Noreen,
Okay.
chapter 3, Select Board.
I will hit it. So I will tell you that the first two sections of this chapter have a lot going on, just to make us feel better as we go through it. The rest of the sections after that, to me, were more housekeeping, so we'll see. Also, for the record, I did have 2 appointments scheduled with our former Select Board Chair, Mary, and unfortunately, because of her crazy schedule, actually it was to go over some sewer items and this, but because of her crazy schedule, they had to be rescheduled a couple of times, and then Mary left us. So I just want you to know that I made the effort, and I wasn't going to try to regroup after that sudden surprise, So beyond that, I'll just say if anybody wants a printed copy, I have one. If you want one for notes.
No, all set. Yep,
Okay.
I have it.
All right, so we will start, and the full text is in each thing, so you shouldn't have to be flipping back, other than to the famous little blue book. Might come in handy once in a while, but yes, that little blue book. I don't have one of those yet, but that's all
I
right.
think Emily might have some copies still.
Really?
Yeah, she does.
All
There should
right.
be some in the vault, there were.
Yeah, we'll check with her.
So for 311, which is the only one other than obviously change selectmen and everything, and I did gray them out. I won't swear that I caught every single one, but I might have. But I kind of liked this language, if you see in the box, the bottom line, possible additional language. I got this, I left my sources there, and I didn't change any words. I wanted to see if there was interest before we worried about plagiarism or any of those things. So the words that caught my eye from a DLS bulletin were the select board members serve as the town's chief executive body. They have overall responsibility for the general operations of town government. I thought that might look good at the very beginning of 311, but that's just my thought as I was reading through things. So that's something to consider. I did add language, although certainly there may be better language. There seemed to be somewhat of a consensus on the idea of trying elections from each precinct, so I put that in, but again, there might be better ways to phrase that. I didn't put in, at this point, select board tenure, but I did put it on kind of our list to remember. I kind of, again, you're getting my own personal opinions. I kind of felt like our tenure is us voting people out. If we have somebody good, that was just my opinion. Also, I kind of had a fear, if you add tenure, it might start with select board and then might morph to other boards. And quite frankly, I wouldn't want to see a board like water, wastewater have a tenure addition. You know, we have enough trouble mastering the concepts, you know, with people who are there many years. But again, those are just my own,
Yep.
my own opinions, you know, so I will see if anybody has any comments on that section. And then, of course, 312 I left, just the,
Want them now?
right. Well, I don't know, that's what we did.
How about we do section by section?
Yeah,
Yeah, section by
last
section
time.
is fine.
I have a comment. Of course.
Of course, good.
On your 4 precincts,
Right,
again, I've said it before, I always liked the Connecticut model, where the one at large was the lead selectman, who was actually paid to be
yeah,
like a miniature mayor,
yeah.
and be in the office all day. And I like the idea of the precincts.
Right.
What occurred to me was that we may only have 4 precincts now,
Right.
but what happens if a 5th precinct gets added?
Yeah.
So I would say, if we're going to consider this, that we should think about it in terms of 4 precincts as they exist as of the adoption date of this charter.
You know, the city that I came from was originally a city of 70,000. It was a very big one. And then over the years, it lost its leather industry, and it drifted down to about 50,000, 45,000. And it had big swells and downs, not like the Cape in the summer, but similar. We also became the very first bedroom community of the North Shore of Boston. So that literally increased us by 1/3 of everybody who wanted to live on the North Shore and, you know, just live there and duck into Boston for their jobs. We never had a precinct change with all of those massive switches in population. So I don't know what would generate a precinct change, but I really don't know, is what I'm
There,
saying.
our resident expert is here on that, so.
It's done with the, yeah. Every 10 years, they'll take a look at it. It's a federal census. The federal census comes along, they take a look at it. And if you've got one precinct that's got more than other precincts, the state steps in.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, you gotta make these pretty much equal. And so that's why when I first was in that position, we only had 3. The state came in and said, now you gotta make it 4. By looking at this now, I'm thinking, well, probably, if one, like, let's say Howardsport is heavier than the others, they'll make some go to South Howard, some go up to North Howard. That's what we did the last time. And I worked very closely with the town engineer, which we had at that point in time, and our town land surveyor, to help us get, Deb, I think, was with me at that point. Yeah, so.
That's why I think you should freeze it at the point when, you know, as they exist on the day it's adopted, the day.
Why don't we remove the number 4 and just say each of the town's precincts?
Oh.
You'd wind up with 5 precincts and 1 at large, and you can't have a 6-member committee.
Because we only have 5 we have 5 members. So
Okay,
So I
yeah.
think that if you want to say this, you would do 4 precincts and 1 at large. Something further to consider is, we would have to talk at some point, how do you implement this? Because if 2 people are from the same precinct now, it
Okay.
means that at the end of their terms, whoever gets to the end of their term first can't run that in that precinct at that point. They have to either run somewhere else or not run at all. So there's some logistics as to how this would be implemented.
Well, this is where we can go take a look at other charters, but I
Yep.
just want to
Right.
bring that up as a point
Yeah.
that would have to be really, really narrowly defined.
Right.
And the implementation.
Yes, because you'd have, just like they did in the Monomoy School District. They elected people, but the first election was in layers to get the staggering. So I think
Right.
this would have to be really thought through as to how it would be implemented.
Mhm.
I like the idea of adding the select board members serve as the blah, 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 as part of a select board of 5 members shall be elected.
Right.
I'm
I like that a lot. To
adding
me,
that
it
in.
gave
What's
me an
their
overview.
purpose? What's their
Oh,
purpose?
you mean their charge?
Yeah, their charge.
Well, I'm not by any means selling the precinct thing. I put it in because there seemed to be a general consensus here. But even while I was putting the words in, I was thinking this might be better on the running list because it is so complicated. You know what I'm saying? For us to try to sit and figure out all of those wrinkles, it might be better to just be on that running list of even things like select board tenure.
Well, I'm not even 100% sure that this would not be one of those things that we can't change without a charter commission.
That's true too. Good point,
You
yeah.
know, because it does affect things that I think are a little dicey in terms of
Right,
what we could
I
do as a
agree.
town meeting and the voters.
So maybe what that means is in this section, that we could call it a possible future.
Yeah, I think it goes on the
With a
running
charter
list.
commission, is this precinct idea.
Right. And my other big thing, just to think, was I was concerned about precincts where if you have a situation when nobody wants to run, and that was my concern too.
But if you have it, somebody will run.
Maybe.
Because I come from, we lived in Newton for many years.
Right.
And we had 6 precincts, 2 were elected from each precinct, and then 6 at large. So we had an 18-member alderman.
Mm-hmm.
And try to get something done. But there was always somebody available to run.
Well, particularly if you're regionalizing it a little bit. People know each other better in various areas of town. So, and it's less of a lift, I would think, to run in a smaller area with people who actually know you well. They
Right,
would come up
right.
with somebody to run.
Right.
It also potentially helps the stacking issue. Everybody's from this group, everybody's from this precinct,
Yep.
everybody's from this side.
Well, I think what I'm hearing, tell me if I'm wrong, is I would take the words from the kind of like third item in the box, if people like that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with taking from a DLS thing for a draft anyway.
No?
Believe me, when I was looking, I compared the charters of Yarmouth, Brewster, and Eastham. And there's so much identical language that I don't think anybody has to worry about duplication of
We
language.
plagiarize all
Yeah.
of
So when I up this after our conversation, I'll add the words to start right off of the select board members serve as the town's chief executive body. They have overall responsibility for the general operations of town government. A board of selectmen of 5 members shall be elected at large for
Okay.
3-year overlapping terms. And then that last sentence about precincts, I'll just take off and you can add it to whatever.
Yeah, a
With
running
things.
list of big changes.
Yeah, if that's okay with everybody, that's what we'll do.
Because I think that, the whole transition thing would be pretty serious, and I appreciate Sandy saying that that's probably a charter
Right.
commission change, because it does change
Now that you say that.
town government.
Yeah,
In
I
it.
mean, I'd say err on the side of caution on something like that. I think it would be something that would be more appropriate to an elected commission.
But it is an interesting concept.
Yeah,
Because I think it would spread representation around the town rather than just in certain sections.
right.
And it
Well,
might give them more of a
And
voice.
we know that there are certain sections of town that receive different kinds of attention
Mhm.
from our elected leaders.
The only other thing I'll mention too on this is in the city that I was from, each ward or precinct got its own ballot. So that's another whole nightmare, you know what I mean? So there would because people would make so many mistakes if you had people from other things. But, I mean, that's a conversation I wouldn't even want to go into, but.
But it is
um,
true, we
Right.
did that in Newton, each precinct had its own award, we have
Right.
awards. had its own ballot with the mayor on it and whatever.
Yeah.
And then here were our wards,
Right.
our ward people, and here was the at-large group. Yeah, you didn't have,
That's
because
right, you didn't have
otherwise
everybody.
people start just Xing off. and
Right.
No.
Well, it wouldn't be so difficult, actually, because if you had, just thinking of the physical setup, people go in, and yes, there are 4 ballots, but your check-in is only going to have the ballot for precinct 1. Your
Yes.
check-in's only going to have the ballot for precinct 2. So there
Yeah.
won't be confusion. You do have 4 separate ballots, but you obviously print fewer of them, and people don't go
Yeah.
in to get 4 ballots at a time, they just go in to get their own ballot,
Right.
which would have selectmen, and then,
No, it's not surpassable, but it's just another,
well, you got to think about the logistics of
Right.
it, yeah.
Yeah, and because I do agree, you wouldn't want to have a ballot with all these
no,
different
I
wards
don't
on
even
them
think
or
it's legal.
precincts. Well, I think it also would be so confusing to people.
Right.
And by the time that the town clerk got done crossing off, okay, I can't count those, but I can't count these, I think that would be a
Yeah, I
nightmare, so
know.
you really would want
I think the
that.
state
Yeah,
would step in
separate
on that.
ballots.
Just from simplicity.
Yeah.
So how do we
Okay,
feel about that in terms of that change and then adding the precinct thing to a future big deal list?
So moved.
Okay, we're good with that.
all right.
Oh,
Was
so
that a
you're not gonna
vote?
take a second and a vote?
Is there-
No, I'm not
Okay.
taking votes.
Okay,
Well,
Just,
just overall,
just
yes,
Consensus.
overall,
We know
that
who-
seems to
guess
be
we
the
know who's in
consensus of where
charge.
we're going.
okay.
all right.
Okay? All right. So, my biggest changes in this are in 322. So 321, I don't know how much to read, because I know you guys are familiar with this, but to me, it was fine the way it is with the obvious select board change in language. But it just seemed, they execute the general laws of the Commonwealth, and seemed okay to me, so unless anybody has any questions on 321.
No?
No?
No.
Okay.
322,
Or 2-2
No.
or 2-3.
I
Well,
don't-
2-2 I have a lot on, so, okay.
We don't have them in here,
No, you do.
Oh,
Hang on,
okay,
hang
got
on. All right, so, couple of things on 322. First of all, the language in our charter talks about the town to be the select board shall cause the laws to happen and the town to be enforced, and shall cause an up-to-date record of all its official acts to be kept. So the obvious answer to me when I read this was, well, okay, I guess that's the minutes. And then I thought about it and I said, you know what? That's not really a record of everything that's just been done. That's just, to me, a convenient thing that is already there. So I said, well, if we're doing this, maybe we can define what we want for an up-to-date record. Maybe not. But I was thinking like, if we're thinking out of the box, well, maybe there should be like a list, separate from the minutes, of like every vote that's taken. Maybe that would be one thing. Or maybe there would be something else. What I'm saying is, this isn't defined. I don't know what this refers to and if it's being done now, this up-to-date record. Is it the minutes?
Well,
It
open
wouldn't-
meeting law tells you what you're supposed to be keeping records of. So if
That's
there is
more
a vote,
procedure than
that's a
policy.
procedure, but the
Correct.
policy is
Is
keeping
up-to-date
up-to-date
re-
records.
Yes,
So that's the policy
Right.
as opposed to the procedure.
correct.
And open meeting law requires that those procedures are, I make a motion, I second it, all those in favor, yes, no, and then that becomes the vote.
Right.
If we start getting, it's an interesting question, do we want to consider making lists in here? Because the second you make a list, there's gonna be something left out.
Right.
So you're saying add it to the list? I mean, it
I'm
would be
saying
like a
no.
bylaw or procedures. No, just keep it up-to-date record.
Yeah,
And it's all been defined. Anita, right?
Sure, I'm not sure what that means.
I took this as an opportunity, we don't have to do anything.
She wants to define the records,
Right,
correct?
exactly. I
The
took
rec-
this as an opportunity to put some exactly, definition into what this record is. Are there things that we want to be part of this up-to-date record of official acts during the year?
I guess the record, I mean, to me, I think it's clear, the record of all official acts. If it's an unofficial act, because they didn't take
No.
a vote on it, then but the record is, it's all official acts. It signs, the select board signs the warrant, that's an official act. It
Their
signs
policies.
Their policies,
Their-
those are, the votes that are taken at a select board meeting that's a record of the official acts.
Right, and would complement the charter. You don't specifically define it in the charter, but it complements the charter, correct? I mean, that's,
I think you're trying to make this a little bit more difficult.
I think that an up-to-date record is required under the open meeting law,
Period.
unless there's something very specific that you're looking for that I'm not hearing.
Well, what is the record, though, that you're referring to?
The record of meetings, actions taken.
Right.
What other record are you looking for?
I just felt that, I should have come in with some examples. I'm never good at thinking of examples. You know, I felt that the minutes, if that's what we're calling pretty much the record.
And other things, but the minutes contain the record, you mentioned votes.
Right.
So the minutes are supposed to contain who made the motion, who seconded it, the discussion, and the vote.
Yep.
And that's the official record of that
Right.
transaction.
Right.
They shouldn't be doing anything outside of those
No,
meetings.
no, that's fine. I didn't want them to do that.
Yeah,
No,
no, but I'm saying the only other things that you would have a record of are those things that would not be contained in the minutes. And these minutes are pages and pages long.
That's what I mean.
They're practically a transcript, and I sometimes wonder why they don't just hire somebody to transcribe the whole meeting,
We
and
used
just
to do that.
run a transcript. I think it would be a lot more efficient, because sometimes the people who are, not to denigrate anybody, but sometimes the people who are writing these minutes, and they're not always the same person, barely understand what the issue is enough to report it correctly. So, I mean, if I were to want to do anything, I would require that the meetings be transcribed.
But back to the
Right.
record that is being discussed, that is the, kind of the piece of this, is, do we need to list the record of all the things that they should be keeping an official record of?
No, I think the charter's meant to be pretty broad.
Yeah.
And if you get too specific,
Yeah.
and you don't cover one thing, someone's gonna say, hey, wait a minute, you know, it's not in the charter, so.
Yeah, I think it's finding a problem that doesn't really exist. I mean,
Right.
if I were to point this kind of language anywhere, I'd point it at the town administrator.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's fine, you know.
That's where the
just-
records seem to be
Right.
most difficult to access.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I'm,
access is different than keeping.
yeah.
Correct.
I'm fine with that consensus. I just, every opportunity I had to
Sure.
think of
no,
something.
that's fine.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, that
Um,
makes sense.
Okay, so I have to get beyond this messy 322. Then forget the italics about the record. Then I'm going to ask you to switch to 326 and consider replacing 322 with my 326.
Replacing 322.
Okay, so you would say you would get rid of 322 or add to it.
Right.
Okay. Members of the select board shall cause the charter, bylaws, and rules and regulations of the government of the town be enforced, and shall cause an up-to-date record of those. Okay.
Which
Keep
that's,
in mind, they also don't enforce just the charter, the bylaws, and the rules and regulations, but it's also Mass General Law.
right.
So there's other things that layer onto this, so it isn't just that. And cause an up-to-date record of the ensure the town administrator complies with the charter.
These excerpts, as you see below, the first line about, to tell you the truth, you know, we talk a lot about the article from a few years back, Sandy, and I said, boy, when I was reading the other charters, I said, here's an opportunity for me to put just a couple of teeth into the charter. You know, when the charter enforcement article did not go through, well, whether or not people did this, this says in our charter, which it didn't before, that the select board is responsible for making sure people follow it. So that's what I took it as.
The problem is that generally speaking, it's the select board itself that's
I
not
know
following
that,
it.
but we're just talking about, not about the people on the board and what they do now, we're talking about the charter. So, I mean, I kind of liked that.
Well, and-
Well, it does no harm.
And going back a bit, you've got 324 is a new section.
That's a
Yes.
what, dear?
Is 324 a new section?
Yes, I'll get to that.
And
in a
5
minute.
and 6, so I'm just
Yeah.
trying to go in order here. But,
So you want to replace 322 with 326? That's your recommendation?
Right,
or
well,
add 326.
Add 326 or?
Either new section or add, I think is what she's got.
okay, I
Okay.
want to replace it, because 322 is contained within the new 326.
Okay, so 326 would become 322.
Right.
new.
And it's easier to change one that's there than to suggest a new one.
Now, can I just,
Yeah.
just make a comment? On this 326, if you look under 323, and it mentions the town administrator, regularly direct the town administrator to carry it out in administrative duties, yada, yada. Do you think the last sentence of 326, which is the select board shall be responsible to ensure the town administrator complies to that charter, should that be under 323? Because you're mentioning the town administrator there.
It could be. I'll tell you, you've broached almost on my bigger problem,
Okay.
which is that in 323, where it says, the select board shall not normally administer the day-to-day affairs of the town,
Yep, yep.
but yet, on the other hand, I've just said that they have to enforce the charter. So I don't think those two statements are in conflict, but it crossed my mind while I was reviewing the things, if you know what I mean. But let me think about what you just said.
Well, having-
Just move that one sentence
Yeah, to the end of,
to the end of
And
323. It was just a thought.
Yeah, if we want that sentence was in a different charter. They are not from the same charter.
Okay, some other draft, okay.
would the select board ever administer the day-to-day affairs of the town? Ever?
Ever?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not under this scenario.
They did.
I'm
when we had
thinking
a
of removing the word
Well,
normally.
we did briefly, because in the transition, we had,
Okay.
we had
What's the word
one
normally?
selectman as,
Oh, yeah.
basically Julie Peterson was the
Yeah.
lead selectman while we transitioned between the adoption and June.
That's fine. Okay, I was just
I
wondering.
don't think there'd be any other circumstance.
But it
although-
could happen, is my point. Very rarely, but it could.
Not in this scenario.
Right.
No, I
Well, I
don't.
think in an emergency situation,
Right, yeah.
if the town administrator
We,
quits and, or something happens medically, and all of a sudden, the select board has to somehow step up and figure out
isn't
what
Got
to
there
it.
do.
That's
something-
fine.
Isn't there
Yep.
something in here about, because we have an assistant town administrator now, so the odds
Right,
of
there is
having,
this- yep, yep.
having both of them down for the count is pretty remote.
Well, I'm going to say that I like Anita's idea. If we want to use that last sentence in 3 to 6, remember, these are my ideas. I like it being up in 323 myself,
Because it carries it through.
and it reads better.
Right, and you meant, because I was reading this, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, you're mentioning the town administrator here, and it doesn't
Yep,
But you should mention it up here, follow through,
So you're taking that last sentence out and moving it to 322?
moving it to 323.
323.
Yeah, which is, right, moving it to the end of 323.
if we want to
It's
use it,
up here,
Yeah, I got it.
if you want to use it.
yeah.
But, you know,
I didn't feel as strongly about the last sentence about the TA as I did about the initial sentence, saying that select board, I wanted it, well, I mean, it's whatever we all decide, but,
Right.
you know, I wanted it in black and white, that they are the, you know, the patrollers of the charter.
Would that be instead of or in addition to some kind of charter compliance arbitration?
Well, we don't have one of those right now.
No, we don't, but we don't have this change either.
We don't have what?
We don't have this change either.
No, but I mean, I feel that they already should be in charge of the making,
Well, of course,
yeah,
but
okay,
there's no guarantee that any given Board of Selectmen
right.
is going to even follow it themselves. And we have a lot of history of that.
Yeah, no,
So it's perfectly fine to say that, but I wouldn't do it instead of.
you wouldn't do it?
Instead of.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just, as what it said, you know, recently we've had chairs of the select board, you know, be reminded that certain actions may be in conflict with the charter, and did that bother them, and they've said no, outright, so, you know, at least this puts it in words. To me, it joined them closer to the charter, that was,
I'm
okay.
uncomfortable with it,
yeah, okay.
because I
You
think
want dialogue?
there is, the charter is the roadmap. And I'm uncomfortable that we're bleeding procedure
Okay.
and into policy. Because procedure is different than policy. To me, the charter is policy. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. but
Charter is the constitution
It's
of the
the
town.
Constitution, but it's the policy of the town. This is how we're supposed to be running ourselves, by the policy of the charter. So to
Well,
start getting into the select board,
I'd say the charter can be much more directive in some cases than it is.
it probably could. But the charter, you know, the rules of the government, it leaves out the Commonwealth, leaves out the federal government. If the
Well, we
federal
don't-
government says we have to all walk with chicken on our head, and the Massachusetts legislature said the same thing, we're gonna have chickens. So
Well, you
I
may.
feel like it, I would, but I think it leaves out whole sections.
The charter only really has to be concerned with whatever the charter is concerned about. The fact of the matter is that it's already established in terms of procedure, that and we've already talked about adding a section that says, if not this, then this, then this, or we can.
Because I feel like in section 321, it says, "Select board shall have all the powers and duties given under the Constitution and general bylaws and authorized by the charter, by bylaw, or any other town meeting vote." I think what you're trying to get through is that the members of the select board shall cause the charter, shall cause the stuff in 321 to be followed.
I'm liking your idea. I mean, this is here for discussion, because I wouldn't want the board to think it had the authority to say, if the charter says 2 and 2 is 4, for the board to have the right to say, we are interpreting that to mean the charter is 2 and 2 is 5. And so I wouldn't want them to have authority over the charter. So I'm
This doesn't give them authority over the
Right.
charter. The fact that certain times the charter is just flat out ignored, or we spend a couple of grand to get town council to
Right.
find a way to make it something it isn't. And this is where I come back to the whole concept of an arbitration
Yep.
compliance commission.
Which I think
We
it
need-
goes on to the big deal
yes,
list.
good idea.
Yeah, I think it's, the time has come that we have an elected 5-person arbitration board,
Yeah.
because otherwise we're spending enormous money in legal fees
Legal
to
fees,
get
yep.
around the charter.
Well, I'm fine with not going down that road, you know, right this minute, that
Leave it alone
particular
for now.
language. So that brings us back to, if we're removing the last sentence, which I'm not even 100% comfortable with the last sentence myself, but that brings that back to 322 holds, and it just stays. That makes 326, 322, as is.
As is.
I took three,
Leave-
yes.
Leaves 322 alone.
right.
Yes.
I took 322 and added some stuff to
Right.
it. And now we're gonna,
Just leave it.
So
So
to-
no changes on 322?
no, it'll
Okay.
stay as it
No
is.
changes, okay.
But on this last, to finish off this 326, which is fast disappearing, the question is, do we really want that sentence about the last sentence? The select board shall be responsible to ensure that the TA complies with the charter. I mean,
I'd rather see that, I'm happy with that kind of a sentence, because I think it also should be in the TA, which is the next section, which is mine,
right?
and saying in there, the TA has to follow the charter, is required to follow the charter.
As outlined in 3-2-3.
Yeah,
Well, I like-
You have it in both places, so that way
Maybe
you're,
in both places, but I think that that's where it,
right, but have it in both places.
So you want to have it at any rate.
so maybe it does go
What do
under
you
the
think,
select
Sandra?
board, chief policy maker, blah, blah, blah.
I think it's.
Yeah, I
And
think,
move
oh,
that to
323.
323.
yeah.
Honestly.
The
Oh,
last
yeah.
sentence, yes.
It reads much better there. But you do like the idea of having that sentence somewhere,
Maybe.
maybe.
But Sandy,
Sandy?
you,
I think it's kind of useless.
I do too.
Yeah.
It's-
okay.
So not have,
You
so
think it's
just not
useless?
change those.
Yeah,
The selectmen swear to
Uphold,
do all of these things.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yes, they do.
So their oath alone is, says that they need to make sure everybody upholds the charter.
oh, well then, take it out then.
Okay.
Yeah, don't even bother.
Right.
yep.
I was just thinking of the consistency, mentioning
Yeah,
the,
no, that,
you
yeah,
know.
okay,
But,
so
no, I can see, that's, that's
326
fine.
is worth
Okay.
eliminating,
So
okay,
326 is history.
yes.
Do we want to think about putting it in with the town administrator?
We can come back to that.
We can come back
Yeah.
to that, but it would be something to,
Yeah, as a directive to the town administrator, 100%.
Okay, so that's good. We got through that
okay.
tricky
But we
one.
didn't get through 4 and 5.
No, I'm going to them
Oh,
next.
okay,
Yeah.
got it.
We're
All
going
right.
through
God,
everything,
Linda, you're so impatient.
piece by
Well, no, she
piece.
said that we're settled with that. I thought we were gonna move
No,
on.
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
So now, 324, I have added. And I added it because, you know, I feel there is inconsistency in some of our reporting. But, you know, my background is finance and accounting, so naturally I'm going to go on this direction. So let me reread this. I haven't read it in a while. Related to the financial, shall participate in the budget process directly.
You can read it out loud, Noreen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Read it out loud, so that'd be
Public.
nice.
Re-
Yeah.
Related to the financial condition of the town, the members of the select board should participate in the budget process, directly reviewing budget requests and having input at all levels of the process. Throughout the fiscal year, the members of the select board, in conjunction with the finance committee, should monitor the financial performance of the town.
One quick comment. Replace should with shall.
I was going to say that.
Where?
I don't like that.
Should monitor,
Shall.
Oh,
Shall
okay.
monitor.
Yeah,
and actually, I would take out the parentheses and say, the members of the select board with the finance committee shall monitor financial performance of the town. And I would take out this in conjunction with, I just say with the finance
Gotcha.
committee.
but, I mean, you can see where I was going. I just, you know, I feel, you know, what I'm trying to say, which I'm so hard, difficult time saying,
You don't
but
have a problem talking, Lauren. You never do. Come on.
it's just that I want to see more ownness of the numbers, you know, and I didn't know if this might help. Now, again, on the other hand, I have to remind us that in 323, we just said that the select board won't administer day-to-day affairs. And some smart cookie might say, well, the
That's-
budget's part of day-to-day affairs.
No, it's not.
Well,
No,
you know,
But the budget is the warrant and the budget are the select board. That's
Yeah,
their responsibility.
right.
So they should be monitoring
Mhm.
where we are.
Right.
With reports
Right.
from the town administrator through the finance department, blah, 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 blah.
I'll give you
Maybe-
another
maybe-
reason. I spent a lot of time thinking about these two items, and the way I know, and I'm not trying to solve a problem just for an existing current board. We have to know globally, they all change and do different things. But a lot do follow the habits of their predecessors. But what I notice now, there was a recent situation in town where department heads, for example, might ask for certain things. Like, okay, let's say that I ask, I'm the head of the turtle inspection department that we've had so much fun with. And I'm telling you in my review as a department head that I would like 4 more turtle watches, okay? And Linda, who's the big cheese here, she says, no, Noreen, no more turtle watches. I'm sick of you talking about the turtle watches. What I've noticed lately is even though the chart goes up on the budget wall, nobody that I see seems to spend much time, other than the TA, we're told, on the department head requests. Now, I'm not saying we shut down the system and everything, but to me, they're being glanced over, The department head's voice should be heard, to me, more strongly than it is right now. The TA says, no, you're not having that this year because we don't have the money, and that's the end of it. The public doesn't know that there are all these things that the people who are hands-on with the services are suggesting that we have.
No, I'm not sure I agree with that,
Okay.
because over the past many years, there has been either more or less information, but if you think about when the TA recently, or TAs have said, okay, here's my first draft budget, what they have to present at a certain point
Right.
to the charter. First draft budget, and there will be, it's all level, the memo will be, it's all level funded. Here's the stuff that people would like that are sitting over here on the
Right.
wish list.
Mhm.
I think that stuff is
All right.
there,
Yeah.
but that's now you're on a procedure
Mm-hmm.
as to how much information comes and goes, as opposed to the policy of reviewing the budget and its requests and its actual versus budget as it goes on.
Right.
That's more of a procedure.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
I do
will
agree that
imagine.
there's been less and less information flowing,
Yeah.
but that's a different.
What
Yeah.
she said plus, I think that you might want to think about adding a few more required joint meetings between the Finance Committee
Mm-hmm.
and the Board of Selectmen.
Again, that's a procedure
It's a
rather
procedure.
than a,
Well, you specify a joint meeting in the charter over the budget.
Well, we have procedures in there about budget. We say by the 4th day of
Right,
this.
but I'm thinking of a more ongoing
Yeah.
kind of
I'm agreeing.
between the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen,
Yeah.
because unless it's required, it won't happen.
Right.
Well, I think a first step is the select board with the finance committee
Mhm.
shall monitor that this actual versus budget. I mean, I would think that the finance committee therefore would be getting actual versus budget numbers, where are we? And that the two groups would have
to meet,
mid-year a
right, they
review.
would have to
Right.
meet.
Where are we?
I
Forces them to meet, yes.
Yeah. I have to say, I understand this past quarter because we have a new financial director and, not having numbers for the first quarter, I understand, they're brand new.
I don't.
But, okay, but,
I do not understand not getting a
okay.
job done.
let me finish my sentence.
Okay,
Spoken by a
But-
true accountant?
But for the past many years now, I have not seen quarterly reports in the packets. So I don't feel the public is getting that information. 'Cause
probably aren't.
if it was in there, I would have seen it, and I have not. And so that's another thing that, I feel we're getting more distant from. There should be, I don't have to tell you, regular routine reports.
But part of that is, there are regular routine reports but if the select board is not asking for them.
Right.
And that's a different issue than the policy of monitor the financial performance of the town throughout the fiscal year.
Right.
Try this one on. The Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee shall receive quarterly reports about whatever from the town administrator. Because the person who has to provide that information is the town administrator and/or the finance director. Might be something for your town administrator, or
Section.
when we get, talk about finance committee. That instead of being shall monitor, which means
Anything.
whatever
Right.
it means,
Yeah.
that they will get distinct quarterly reports on whatever you would want in a quarterly report. And somehow, be required to, I don't know, hold a hearing on it once every quarter to inform the community.
I think a quarterly hearing might be overkill myself.
Well, she'll be included for public discussion in
Right, that's fine. I
agenda.
mean, the people,
by the 15th of the following month,
Right.
or whatever.
the people in town that follow those things would look for them and they'd be there to
Right.
question them as long as they were in the packet.
Well, you can, the chair of the meeting gets the right to take questions from the public
Right.
at any time.
Mhm.
The public gets the right to be at the meeting, they don't get the right to speak.
Right. They
Or
can always
here's-
go back the following week and speak during public
They
comment.
could.
You know.
Or there's another thought, just require it to be posted and publicly available on the town website.
So should that be more in the town administrators section? Because here we're talking about what the select board should be doing. Reviewing
That should be shall.
constantly, throughout
See
the
that
year,
should?
reviewing the actual versus budget.
Right there,
For want of
Right
better
here.
Oh.
phrasing.
two of them.
Maybe in the town administrators section, required to give quarterly reports to the select board and the finance committee.
And she'll also post them on the town website for public information.
I
Because
feel
those
we'll-
people that want to look at that stuff will be on it.
I
And
think,
what we're gonna have to do though is when we get to that quarterly report, define it. Because having sat on the finance committee, I know that we used to get a binder like this,
No.
which had all of the detailed budget information in it,
I,
with all kinds of stuff, right?
my concept, I would be perfectly happy to accept the most simplistic thing, even for instance, the operating budget report that is in the back of the warrant, but on a quarterly basis. The bare bones, not asking people to go through hoops on a quarterly
You
basis.
know, what comes out of Munis.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
But I do think this one, I think is gonna bear more thought on all, I put these in, they aren't in the charter, this is just Noreen,
Interesting line of discussion.
What, dear?
It's an interesting line of discussion, but
Right.
it seems that we are being slowly starved of the information that we should be
I
having.
agree.
Committees being told that they can't have the information they
Yeah,
need to
that's
function, i.e. the Golf Commission. They've been told they
Yeah.
can't have the information they want. We know this.
Further on in this report, you'll see there were several times I tried to define financial information further, that's my goal in life.
I mean,
so.
any citizen in this town has a right to ask for whatever information isn't personnel related,
Yeah.
or HIPAA or any of that kind of
Lawsuits
thing.
or whatever.
Right, right, I mean, that goes without saying, but to have committees not being able to access, finance committee's been having difficulty. We know the golf committee's been virtually shut down over it. When any citizen can walk in and hand Emily a FOIA request on that kind of information and expect to have it in 2 weeks.
Well, and if the select board does not want to release the information through the channels of having it in the packet, et cetera, yeah, you do force FOIA requests to make our town clerk nuts with, meaning the town clerk now has to do the work that should have been done by the person in the first place. And it does impact the town clerk's office to have all these FOIA requests. I get it, but that is what I think the community is getting backed into. But back to 324. do we feel like something like this works? But, and I'm not sure I like the phrasing financial condition of the town. But
Performance, you mean? Where are you?
324, related to the financial
Oh,
condition of
okay.
the town.
How about
I think
just-
I
how
would just
just-
say, the members of the select board should participate in the process.
With-
and
Shall.
With,
Shall,
shall.
et cetera, throughout the fiscal year. I'm not sure I'd say related to the financial condition,
Yep.
because that is what it is.
When I stole, I steal whole parts, so
Yeah.
we know what we're talking about, so.
Oh, you grand
That-
theft.
That
huh?
came from the
This is grand
town
theft.
officials handbook.
So after with the finance committee, period, take out.
Say it again, Linda.
I said just 324.
Yep.
I would take out related to the financial condition of the town. I just would say the members of the select, I would just say the select board shall participate in the budget process.
Mm-hmm.
Because what else would the budget process be but the financial condition of the town?
Well, it
Okay.
doesn't indicate that one selectman can go out and participate in the fin, which,
That's right, it's the
Yeah.
select board.
yeah.
And then the fiscal year, the select board with the finance committee shall monitor.
So did you skip everything after process?
No, I'm just not reading it all
Okay.
constantly. I'm just showing the changes.
Okay,
I'm just
gotcha.
repeating the changes.
All right.
So you want to skip out, you want to take out the members? So throughout the fiscal year, the select board.
Yeah, the select board again.
Okay,
I
good.
thought a board
Shall.
couldn't take an action, that's why I kept
Of course
putting
they
that
can.
in. All right.
What do you mean they can't take an action?
Well, it's an inanimate object, it's the members who do it, but, whatever, it's not,
Well, you wouldn't want one member to think, because it does say members, that one member could go ahead and do it.
well, I mean, that's
The
fine.
board
It's
to
just,
act as a
it's just
board.
It is-
English,
it-
it
Yeah.
doesn't
It
matter
is
to me.
essentially an inanimate object, but
Right.
that's
Yeah.
another discussion.
Always in
No,
one.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
So we feel comfortable with that addition.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, will I be rewriting this section with our conclusions from tonight?
No, well,
Yes.
I'm creating a report.
Right,
That will have whatever we thought about
Okay.
today added to that report.
all right.
I have chapter 2 redone with
Great.
Yeah.
the changes.
Why don't you email that to me?
Okay, we don't want to discuss it tonight.
Well,
Oh, well, we'll get to
No,
it.
it's
We'll
on
get
the
to it. It's
agenda,
on
I
the
have
agenda
questions
later
on that.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so are we okay with 324 for the moment?
Yes, and, how it looks.
Yeah, all right. So 325, again, I feel this could be construed as entering into the world of daily operations. But I just don't feel like our deliverables are coming to us on a regular or timely basis.
Well, here's the problem
Well,
with this.
With this section.
Yeah, the problem with this is, and what should be happening, if it's positions that are direct hires of the Board of Selectmen, Select Board, Finance Director,
Treasurer, tax
Treasurer, Tax Collector,
Police and fire.
the Select Board should have all the information related to everyone who applies, because it does not appear that the Select Board members are being allowed to see all these applications,
Right.
unless they have to, go specifically and ask for them, but they should be somehow more engaged in the hiring and the interview process, I would believe.
Would be an automatic that they see these applications.
It should be automatic that they see them, and they
Mhm.
should have either the whole board or a couple of designees
Mhm.
be present at these interviews. Obviously, you don't want to record them. Obviously, people aren't going to be interviewed in public unless it comes down to some kind of, two-candidate thing, although we certainly interviewed pretty publicly for police chief the last time around. But somehow it's got to be just SOP that as applications come in, the select people get to see it. See them.
I agree with that. Having having spent my life reviewing applications as part of what I do for a living, and I know that when I would put out a job, I'm hiring this position, blah, 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 and there were a ton of applications that would come in that had no qualifications whatsoever. I'm not gonna pass those on and say, these have absolutely no qualification. I'm looking for someone, the bottom line application is a bachelor's degree in accounting or finance. And somebody sends in an application that is, you know, basket weaving. Well, no. So I'm not sure all the applications should go through, because a lot of applications, people just, in this day and age, they just blanket resumes.
Sandy, think of it as board of directors of, say, a bank. They're not day-to-day looking at applications. Once the candidates have been selected, before they're actually hired, they could go to the board. You know, in other words, the board could look at that.
Once upon a time, we did see all those applications.
Really, but
That's not now.
I don't think it's prudent.
Well, here's the
as Linda
problem.
said.
I guess you have to have complete trust in the people who are screening these applications to screen them fairly.
Right,
And that may or may not be happening.
right.
You know, somebody on a board might say, well, this is an interesting person, maybe we should give them a look. Or maybe somebody's being ignored because, oh, I don't know, they come from the wrong family. Things like that.
I don't think you're ever going to be able to put that into words, into a charter, because while the charter is the direction as to how we govern ourselves, it is people who are doing this stuff. People may or may not come with their own agendas. They may or may not have preconceived notions. I don't want to have a woman as a police chief because she could never do the job. If you come with those, you're not going to be able to put that in charter language, that you're not supposed to have any biases or preconceived notions or favor one family over the other. I don't know how you put that into words, because this is still supposed to be the overall, how we govern ourselves.
Understood. But
Would you be okay with the board interviewing a candidate before they're actually hired? Say the town administrator has two people that, no,
Well, I have to add that lately there's been a robust discussion among our select board about exactly this issue. And now I could be misquoting, so don't shoot me. But the TA believes that it is in his purview only to make the selection, I believe, of maybe not the finance director, but the other positions mentioned. So this is something that's going on as a discussion matter, you know, right now. So,
in light of what's happened.
I mean, I can't imagine that the existing group would be happy to hear that now the board was going to be involved in interviews as well. I feel that the TA would think his area was being tromped on. Again,
No,
this
no
is just
comment.
something that I wrote, and to tell you the truth, when I stole it, you know, again, for me, and it is partly procedure, it's more about the deliverables, you know, and I know we don't put things in a charter, but, you know, I'd like to say, you know, the tax rate is set by such and such a date, or such a, and that's not appropriate, you know, but that's where I was kind of headed.
it's not needed.
Right, but that's, you know,
I'm not wild about that section.
I wasn't either.
And
It was
I
my least
agree, Linda,
favorite.
I agree. I mean,
Yep. It may cause a lot more problem, and it may not do any good whatsoever.
Well, it's also not clear enough about hiring, and, I mean, a point could be
Right.
a lot of things. Yeah, I don't like the section. I do
All right,
somewhat like the sentiment, and then
Yeah.
think about
that's
that
okay.
further.
I have no pride of authorship. No problem.
Hanging out with us, you don't have any pride at all.
That's coming quickly upon me, I see. All right, so 325 is gone, no
Okay.
problem. All right, we get a couple of easy ones now till we go on. So the next one, I had no issues with, section 331, I'll read it quickly. The select board shall have the power to enact rules and regulations establishing town policies not otherwise governed by general law, this charter, or bylaw, but whenever an appropriation shall be necessary to implement an action, the vote of the board shall be effective only if the appropriation has been authorized by town meeting.
Yeah.
Very clear.
I have a
Yep.
change.
Yes,
Ooh, you
on
do.
3, this section 331,
Yep.
okay?
I would like to change the order and put this charter ahead of general law.
Oh, I see, governed by
By
this charter.
Charter.
You're right, because I read your,
Just reverse
Actually-
those.
I read your
Actually,
report.
Actually, it should be that by this charter
Bylaw.
Yep,
or bylaw,
Or general
Yeah.
law.
Yeah.
one,
It's an order issue. Yep, I agree.
yep,
3. I think we can't do enough to make it clear that this is
Charter,
the ascendant
Bylaw,
document.
state.
It strengthens that point. Yes.
That's
Okay.
good.
I like it,
I
okay?
like
I like it. Okay, so other than that change, I like the sentence. Are people pretty comfortable with that?
It's a thing of beauty.
Hmm?
Yes.
All right, section 4, powers of investigation. I'll read it for the record. 341, the select board may conduct investigations and may authorize the town administrator or other agent to investigate the affairs of the town and the conduct of any town department, office, or agency, including any doubtful claims against the town, and for this purpose may subpoena witnesses, administer oaths, takes testimony, and require the production of evidence. The report of these investigations shall be placed on file in the office of the town clerk, and a report summarizing the investigation shall be printed in the town report. I've never seen those things done, but I have to admit, I don't read the town report from cover to cover.
Well, I don't think there's been anything really major in the way of an
Maybe not.
investigation as such.
Well,
I don't,
well, yeah, and if they have, there's been investigations, but they've been personnel. Those don't,
That's
you know,
right.
those don't get public.
Right.
Yeah.
And since our town administrator has the wonderful honor of being the investigation of dog complaints,
Mhm.
those do get, he does put a report into the, you know, the packet for the select board. I'm sure that one is a resume answer for him.
I'm sure.
Well, if everybody's okay with that one, that will
Yep.
stay as it is. Now, in section 5, specific powers, duties, and responsibilities, I was okay up until 353. And my suggestion for 353, when we get to it, is probably going to be called procedural, but I'm getting used to
I
that.
don't know about that.
But at any rate, the first one, 351, the Board of Selectmen shall be recognized as the head of government for all ceremonial purposes. Fine. 352, the Select Board shall act as the licensing authority of the town and shall have the power and responsibility to issue license, make all necessary rules and regulations regarding the issuance of licenses, and to attach conditions and impose any restrictions that it considers to be in the public interest. And further, to enforce or cause to be enforced the laws, rules, and regulations relating to all businesses for which it issues licenses. I was fine with that one.
Yep.
As a question, do we really need to read each section?
Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah.
Just to move this along.
Yeah, good, you're right. Okay, 353. The only reason, you know, I put some changes into this is because I've worked in municipal offices. And I felt that this is the system for when the TA isn't there and the select board is called in to sign the weekly warrant, this is.
Yeah.
This is our payroll, our accounts payable, stuff like that. And I thought that this, you know, voting, reporting, everything else was more complicated than I've seen it done in other towns, for one thing. And I thought it was more complicated than it needed to be, you know. I really think that if the TA is going to be in Aruba, then for me, it's perfectly fine if the chair says, okay, who's available on Thursday? The weekly warrant will be ready. What two people or whatever are, two select board members are available to come in and sign the warrant that day. And that's usually how it works. You'll have one select board member who'll go through every piece of paper and another one who will just say, where do I sign? And that's all fine. It's already been gone through by the finance department. I do have one thing which I'll mention now, although it's not in my section, it's in Linda's, but it speaks to this.
Well, how about you, how would you want to change this wording?
Okay, so where I have started it in italics, I would then change that to where it says this designation shall be by a majority vote. I would change it to what's in the box. This designation will be at the discretion of the chair, and the name of the designee will be announced at the next board meeting. Upon designation, the chair will notify in writing the town clerk, town accountant, and town treasurer of such arrangement. So if I was the select board chair and that happened, I would say, Linda, you're going to be the designee, and then I would issue a memo to the town clerk, town accountant, and town treasurer that I've designated her, and that would be it.
But if you're designating her,
Hmm?
it's not a majority vote.
No, it wouldn't have to be. I think it's,
She's taking that out.
I'm
She's
taking
saying
that out.
The chair would have the discretion to say, Anita, sign
Right.
the warrants
Right.
on Thursday because the town administrator is on vacation.
it's the weekly warrant.
You're saying it
Bill
should be,
schedule.
What?
You're talking about the bill schedule?
Now, this
Yeah.
is the bill schedule, the
Right.
warrants for the payment of town funds.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems wholly unnecessary
Well,
To-
have to go through all that.
Well, at least I've shortened it. At least they're not voting.
Well, you could have, I think having them vote on it is probably more to the point. I
Well,
would
to me,
think
it also delays it. You've got to take a vote, you've got to record the vote. I mean,
Town administrator drops dead tomorrow morning. So you've got to wait a week to designate somebody to wait a week to pay
Yeah.
bills? That can't happen.
I agree. And the towns I've worked in, the rule was simply, if the town administrator wasn't available, then the board knew that a couple of them had to come in. We usually had more signatures, like we might have wanted 3 of them in, you know. And there was nothing mentioned at any select board meetings or anything else. So that was the goal of where I was trying to get.
Well, I think other than perhaps designating a person or two to do that, which you, by a majority vote, it seems to me the only real relevant person that you would need to notify would be the finance director.
Who pays the bills? I think
Finance
that's
director.
The finance, so that, and we don't,
Yeah.
and the town accountant.
And I wouldn't say that you know, I mean, I
I don't
you
think you
could-
need to tell the town clerk or the town treasurer.
don't think so.
Well, the treasurer needs to cut the checks, so.
Yeah, but the treasurer is cutting checks because the town accountant has put stuff in Munis
All
and
right,
it barfs
yeah,
out a
no,
check.
I mean, that's fine.
But it does say in the original warrant that the board filed in the offices of the town clerk, town accountant.
Right, that's the
treasurer.
original.
That's the original, right.
Yeah.
But why do that, is the
Well,
question.
as much as I may defend the original, that actually seems kind of useless to me.
Because what's
What
the
the
town
old,
clerk?
what the old one say? Alan?
She's got such a
Does
soft
it?
voice. I
Yeah.
gotta sit next to her.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
I said,
I
what did
need
the
it.
old charter say?
Yeah. Good idea.
I don't think
Is
we
this one of
changed that.
something that we started out with, or is this something that Winnie?
It just seems like a
That's-
lot of steps for a simple thing.
It's
That's
a ridiculous
It is.
amount of
Yeah,
steps.
and I don't care
There
about
is
my
no-
words. I was just trying to simplify it, however
It's
we
not
do
there?
that.
No,
there is no 353.
there is no 353.
So this was something that was added by Leo
Eventually,
Vasca.
at some
Probably.
Yeah,
The
well,
board of, the select board shall have the authority to designate from time to time somebody to sign warrants in the absence of the town administrator. Okay.
I would just add,
Does it need to be, does it need to be voted on? Or do we want the chair just to be able to designate someone to do it?
Either way, but if you want a vote on it, just designate from time to time, by majority vote, one or more members.
I'm just trying to think, there was one time that I had to sign a warrant, I believe, because somebody wasn't available to do it. I think that's why.
Well, what
I just put
happens
on
when the
notice.
TA goes away normally?
Because the warrants don't go to the town clerk as a rule.
As a rule, that's correct, but something came to me, this was
Right.
years
So
ago.
you had to sign the warrant.
I had to sign
Well, that's.
because somebody
would be a
was
big-
absent or
big
wasn't
exception,
available.
yeah.
but I
that's-
don't
but
mean-
that's- But that's different than filing
Right.
the fact that somebody
Right.
has to do it with the town clerk.
True.
So are we okay with basically the select board can designate somebody to sign warrants in the absence of the town administrator? Is that
Yes.
an okay thing?
Yes.
Second question, do we want it to be an actual vote or can it be a designation by the chair?
I'm for designation.
You know, before we Mickey Mouse with wording and how it should say, what is it we're trying to say,
I always prefer a vote.
okay? I'm okay with a vote.
I'm just trying to figure out.
We could just say something like, in the absence of the town administrator, the warrants shall be signed by whatever,
The
two
chairman-
members of
The chairman
the,
of the Board of Selectmen or his, her designee.
I lost my,
Well, I think leaving alone the first sentence is fine. The select board has the authority to designate somebody to sign warrants. I think up to the third line of clause 461. I think that's fine,
Mm-hmm.
that they have the authority to designate someone else. The question is, how should they designate it? Do we want to suggest that they would continue, that they vote on it? And I think the designation shall be by a majority of the board. Well, that's the only way a vote passes if it's a majority.
mhm.
Well, like, another thing that occurs to me is why do you need to designate a selectman to do it when we have an assistant town administrator?
Well, I'm gonna get there in a minute, and I don't wanna go there. Yeah.
But
I
we
don't
just-
think it's appropriate for an assistant town. I have more to come on that.
But I think that the idea is the select board can delegate someone to sign warrants.
Right.
So therefore, if
It's
the
in
TA
here.
isn't here,
It's in there.
isn't available,
Was it taken out?
do you want
Yeah,
it
that's
to be?
461.
A vote?
If
A
you look
vote?
at 461, Anita just found it.
Yeah,
Right,
It
it's
covers
right here.
this.
it does cover it.
That at least 3 selectmen, yeah. It says warrants, this is the original charter, section 6, 461, warrants for the payment of town funds prepared and signed by the town accountant, which is now the finance
I
director.
don't know what you're reading.
I'm reading
461.
the original
All
charter.
right, we got a different force.
Okay, well, yeah. I only deal with what we really have.
Yeah, but I'm telling you that this was covered very nicely in the original
It may
charter.
have been, but we've got this. So
Right.
what does it say?
But alternative language could be this
Right.
again. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so that's really gonna be under the town administrators. role.
Yes. Yes.
May I share what it says?
Yeah.
Thank you. Warrants for the payment of town funds prepared and signed by the town accountant in accordance with general laws shall be submitted to the town administrator, yada, yada, yada. In the absence of the town administrator, it specifies that 3 members of the Board of Selectmen will sign.
That's very common, yeah.
And,
Let's
So-
just say that.
Yeah.
or, because what it says now in the current charter, under 461, says, in the absence of the town administrator or the event of a vacancy in that office, warrants may be signed by the person or persons designated by the select board under clause 353.
Right, but that gets, then you get into this long process
We
again.
get- But,
You're getting
but
back
the-
and forth.
go back to the question of, the select board can designate somebody to sign a warrant. if the town administrator isn't around. Do we want it to be a vote? Do we want to suggest that it has to be a vote, which means it's in public, on an agenda? Do we want to suggest that it should be one of the select board members? They're designating a select board person as opposed to anybody else. Get to the, what is it we're trying to
Okay.
accomplish as
Well,
opposed to,
Linda,
should I
if you-
change
if-
this word
if
here or
you-
there?
If you state in the charter that in the absence of the town administrator, 3 selectmen
Right, I
shall
love
sign
that.
warrants, you don't need to worry about the rest of it.
That's true. That's what I'm trying to get to. We're going back to, well, how should we word it?
Right.
What is it we're trying to accomplish? Do we want to have a vote? Or do we want to have just the chair, or do we want to have the chair be able to designate?
We don't need to do any of those things if the
Right.
3 selectmen signatures are already required to sign warrants. And
But
the
they're
act-
not required to sign
No.
warrants, because that's not in
But they-
this charter.
Yeah, but the old language covers what we're worried about.
Can I jump in?
That's true, but that's not what we have here, so you
Right.
have to change this.
Can I jump in? I'm agreeing with Sandy, and I do think, yes, we should take that language. I think that language is perfect. And it's also the process that's been used in many towns I've been in,
Okay.
all right? But so if you just have that sentence, then they know 2 of them come in, the staff calls up people and say, we need a 3rd. I mean, that's how it actually works
Which
in
is
life.
what always used to happen.
Okay,
Yeah.
and just have that sentence the way it is, and have that replace 353, and then, of course, make sure
That's-
this
don't
doesn't
worry
need to
about
be.
that.
Wayne would usually let us know, I'm gonna be out of town for the week.
Right,
You guys are gonna have to come in and sign
Right,
the warrants.
right.
So
yeah.
so we're getting back to what is in the current charter, regardless of anybody else's charter, is right here. So what you are suggesting is the select board, rather than designate from time to time, in the absence of the town administrator, 3 members of the select
Right.
board will sign a warrant.
Yep.
Right.
Is that what you're trying to get across?
Yes.
Great.
Thought I wasn't trying, I thought I'd actually done
No,
a
you
pretty
weren't-
good job.
You guys weren't getting that across. You were
Okay.
bringing in, but this person is, so, this is, you would have 3 members of the select board.
The sign in the absence of the TA.
So that's the
Do you
9.
need 3, or is it 2 enough? 'Cause
2 is
right now-
probably enough, but people usually have 3. I'm just telling,
Okay.
and I think that's because that would
I would say
represent,
that 3 the majority.
it would represent, exactly.
Sorry, did I take the words out of your mouth?
That's
Yeah.
fine. 3
Right.
members,
So-
so that section is gonna change to say that.
All right,
But
so
it
that,
doesn't need to be, but we agree, it doesn't need to be a vote,
right,
et cetera. It'll just be
It's
3
just-
members.
it's just-
And whatever procedure they use, we're good. All right.
okay. So I'm going to just vary off the rails the tiniest bit, because it's something that's included in this topic and very important to me, all right? So I feel I have to do it. And actually, it was just mentioned in Sandy's language. I was so shocked when I read, some of the references, because whenever I was doing this, I would go to the referred to part, of course. And I never knew that in this town, that it's only the TA that signs the weekly warrants.
Yeah.
In every town I've ever been in, it's the financial director and the TA, never just one signature. And that's what I just heard you say. So that's what the original charter was. And I think in chapter 4, the finance director should be added back in.
Should have dual
And now, just
control.
let
I'll
me,
send you a copy of this.
somebody might say that, well, the financial director prepares it, so why do they have to sign it? They prepared the whole thing. But having that initial, and remember, that includes payroll too.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there, because I know that through the library, that warrant gets signed by Jenny. Then what the town accountant is doing is accumulating warrants
Right,
to
that's
send to
true.
the TA. The town accountant isn't approving those things. Jenny's the one who, our librarian, says, here's my payroll, and it's gotta get signed, and it goes to the payroll department. Here's my warrant for bills to be paid, that gets signed. That's the approval process, is the department head for the initial, this is what has to be
Okay.
paid. then it goes to the town accountant, accumulates, and then the final signing goes.
Okay, all right, and you're absolutely right, since we're such a big town, it comes in by departments. In the process of the town accountant or financial director assembling those, they overview them. There's nothing wrong, and usually there's a cover sheet. There's nothing to prevent the town accountant or financial director from signing that. So even though the approval comes in from the departments, the onus, the finalness, right now is only on the TA. And I believe it should be, it's a financial document, I believe our financial director's initials or signature should be on it.
Okay,
That's in section 4 anyway, I'm just throwing that out
but
there.
I'm also saying that the department heads do sign off on this stuff before it goes anywhere. Because they're the ones who are actually doing the data entry
Right.
for all of the
Right.
payable stuff.
Mhm.
That's not done in the accounting department.
Yeah.
That's was spread out years ago. And payroll, it's signed by them too.
To me, the onus falls with the financial director, but it is
Okay,
one for
that's in
advance.
chapter 4.
Yeah, so.
Just
I'm
FYI,
giving-
Noreen, I agree with you,
Pardon me?
that I agree with you 100%.
I do too.
Okay,
I do
chapter
too.
4.
Yeah, that was just,
Focus on chapter 3.
Okay.
Because chapter 4
I've
is
been
not
doing-
on the agenda.
I've been doing pretty good staying within the rails, I warned you.
Yeah, but you
All
gotta.
right, now I'm
There is so much.
Going right back,
Overlap that
I'm
it's
going
kind of
right
hard
back
to
to the,
But it's not on the agenda.
rails here.
And
Okay,
I don't want
dear.
to get into trouble.
All right,
With
but
people watching.
it's
the
I know,
related, it's-
but it was referred to from 353 to 461, so there you go, I got
It's
you.
related.
Yeah, I don't
At
know
any
what it
rate,
is.
I'm back on the rails here. Section 6, powers of appointment. So I'm not going to read all of 361, which is about the specific positions. What is this about? Oh, the specific positions that are appointed by the select board, but those are listed just as they were in our charter. So, okay, nothing said there. 362, which was this one about? Oh, yeah, so this was just technical stuff, procedural, if you'll ask me, but that's just me. Where they talk about, I'm trying to read this quick, help me out here, guys. Oh, yeah, how many members, 2 alternates, and things like that. All I did, this is just housekeeping in my little proposed change box, was I added a sentence because this had it that all they ever appointed was 3-year terms, and we've gotten into the habit of doing terms that wind up staggered.
Not anymore,
Okay.
not anymore. I think that's been handled in-house.
What do you mean? Handle?
I know Anita and Ellen worked on it, and I think it's continued to be that, which you're suggesting, correct? The staggered terms that all wound up being,
Yeah, it went down to the clerk's office. I don't know where it is now, though.
well,
Yep.
Okay, I'm
it got
confused.
straightened out. This question of, the terms ending all at the same time,
Yeah,
Ellen Powell, when she was here,
right,
worked with Anita
right.
to straighten out, so the terms were rejiggered
That's right.
to be correct, and as far as I know, that problem doesn't exist.
Right,
You
but
just-
there's no reason why that problem couldn't come up again in the future if 3
that's-
people
that's-
resigned from a committee, or
That's
if
true.
somebody got sick, or,
You win.
you know,
But they also have, we do have in the charter now, position vacated prior to the end of a term,
where are you?
362 at the bottom. All appointments shall be made for full term of the position, or in the case of a position vacated prior to the end of a term, the person will be appointed for the full remainder of the unexpired term.
Right,
So I think it says what you want.
no. All I was suggesting, I've been on committees where everybody resigned at once, you certainly have.
Oh, yes, the whole thing. That wasn't my plan, by the way. I
So-
just want that on the record.
Okay, all I wanted it to say, that last sentence that starts with my italics, all appointments made shall be for the full term of that position, or terms constructed to result in staggered terms. If it's just housekeeping, so it doesn't, I'm not invested in this. I was just allowing that extra option. It's just technical.
Let's
But if they're
clarify-
filling the full term of that position, it's already staggered.
It's already there.
Not if 3 people, I've been on boards where 4 people resigned at once,
Oh, I see.
you
Well,
know.
and they all had, but when they all resigned at once, they all had different term ending dates. So if they are being appointed to fill an unexpired term,
Okay.
you are still maintaining staggered terms.
That's fine by me.
Right,
Again,
right.
it's housekeeping, you
Yeah.
know.
No, I
If
know.
it-
Leave it
If
as
it
is.
clarifies it and make it better, I don't
I'm
think
not
it
sure.
changes
I don't
anything.
think it clarifies it for me.
Okay.
I mean, we're saying all appointments are made, shall be made, whenever they appoint somebody to a board, committee, or commission, it's for the full term of that position. Or, if the position has been vacated prior to ending the term, for the full remainder of the unexpired term, which I think gives the select board then, is appointing someone either for 3 years, or there's a 1 year left on
Okay.
this term, and they've been doing
Right.
that.
Yep.
You can see that somebody is being, term ending on the, June 2024, this one's 2020. They're doing that now.
It's probably more apparent to me because I'm on a board that just added several people. So we came in on staggered terms,
Yep.
you know, so that's why it's in my mind, you know.
Right,
But
but
again, it's nothing I'm invested in. I just thought this made it clearer, but if other people thinks it's better the way it is, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's clear.
I think it's fine the way it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a,
Yes, ma'am.
I think, I'd like to change the order of other agencies as may hereafter be established by charter.
Ah.
Where are you?
I'm down like almost to the end, by.
Of the 4th sentence,
Oh, yeah,
third
yeah.
line up.
Yes,
So it
please.
should be charter, bylaw, and general law.
It's three
It's
up,
just above the italics.
that's just a.
reorder.
Yeah,
Reorder.
Yeah.
Got it.
gotta read the whole darn charter to see how often this happens.
I know it. Okay, we're getting there. We're almost done. All right, section 7, prohibitions. I had no problem, I did anyway, with 371 and 372. 371 was the one about not giving orders to the TA.
Not giving orders to the employees.
And the employees, that's right, okay, the
You go to
employees.
the town administrator.
372, about the select board can only hold one elected or appointed office.
Question. Yeah?
You know, we could suggest on our running list to change that.
Why?
What's that?
Well, I'm just saying we could. There may be some people who have an interest in doing that.
And I'm the one who pushed that
Mhm.
article a number of years ago.
Okay.
Because we had an opportunity, and what I used as an example was, you have somebody who sits on the select board and sits on Monomoy Regional School Committee.
Yeah.
If the Monomoy Regional School Committee says this $55 billion budget is
Yep,
just
okay.
dandy, and then how can that same person come back to the select board, put a hat on and actually look at it when they've already voted, it's okay?
Yeah, that's
So-
fine. I didn't even have any comments on it.
No, I think that's a good prohibition. But going back to, the idea that, that obviously selectmen can't do the day-to-day. They can't go into somebody's department and give direct orders. This has been taken to the extreme that apparently selectmen aren't even supposed to go in and ask for information, or committee members aren't even be allowed to ask for information.
Right.
I think it should be made clear somewhere in this charter that boards and committees have the right to seek information in furtherance of their mission.
You're segueing into my next section.
Well,
Well,
That
isn't
may
that what
come
you asked me
under-
to do?
Huh?
Isn't that what you asked me to do?
That was right. You got it. But can I jump in for a second?
It's up to her.
yes, it is up to the chair. It depends, is it on the agenda?
Yes, it's right here.
Okay. As long as it's on the agenda.
There's no off-rails anymore, no ATVs. So, along with Sandy's question, the only question I had on this section comes in 373. And the reason I wrote this lengthy piece was, personally, I feel that the role of liaisons has been changed in the past year. And I don't know if I like the changes. You know, I read a lot of stuff about liaison language, no, not a lot, but a little bit about liaison language. And, you know, we went through years when the liaison was supposed to be nothing but wallpaper, you know, be in the back of a room and just carry information back and forth unless they were specifically asked something. Now we have, with the new charges being written and everything else, the liaison controls everything. You know, if through Linda, a question is asked of a liaison, it dies there unless Linda follows it up. So I'm concerned about this liaison role because when I was first involved in town, I was even, you know, like demoted from a committee because I was only supposed to be a liaison and I was taking too active a role. And they were right. You know, I didn't know that at the time, you know, but once I heard it explained, I said, you're absolutely right. You know, so this is kind of what I was trying to accomplish in here, was to examine the liaison use role that's being thrown around now.
Okay, I'd like,
All right,
Sandy had a question on 371.
okay,
So I think we should finish that section first.
okay,
Which is the issue of, you know, the select board is not supposed to be directing and supervising town employees and not supposed to be giving orders. You're raising a different question, which is, how does one get information? And that's different than the supervisory thing.
I understand that,
So
but it's related.
how would we put that in there? Because the section is prohibition. Yeah, we always like, I was glad when prohibition ended.
Well, how about saying that liaisons aren't allowed to get actively involved in,
That, but that's the liaison
Okay.
thing, but this is the asking,
the question?
where would we put in the charter that if people ask a question, they get an answer? It's procedural.
Yeah, the right place to put it, I don't know the answer to that, but it's something we could come back to.
I wonder if it's like something, I'm not gonna try to find it now, but in the boards and committees section even.
Well, that's what I'm kind of thinking, but you've got elected and you've got appointed.
What I'd like to do is, I'd like to hold that concept.
Sure.
Mhm.
And as we go through the rest of this,
Fine.
maybe we will find a spot that it
Right.
belongs.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
Because,
think somewhere probably under boards and committees would
you
be,
know, where
I would
to,
say so.
where to put, if asked a question, how, to who gets to ask.
Yep,
Let's hold that until we may go through this and say, you know, that's really where that belongs.
I'm sure there's a spot for it, but I think it should be in there somewhere.
Yep.
That they should be entitled, maybe just through the chair of a committee. Instead of the
Yeah.
whole committee trooping in to
it's
say.
a good thing to put in though, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because right now,
That's
we have
what I'm saying.
committees that are being told
Right.
that they cannot have access to the information they need.
Which brings
Right.
us back to the FOIA request.
right.
So, if we want to hold it FOIA, that's fine. But I agree, somewhere that should be in here, but I'm not sure where, because I'm not sure I like it under prohibition.
I know,
I don't know where to put it.
we'll
Or
find a
maybe it
place.
should be there,
place.
so we need to find a spot for that.
There's a place
Yeah.
for it, somewhere a place for it.
Okay.
So,
You make sure
Paraphrasing
there
my
is,
song.
okay,
I got it.
I got it on the hold list.
all right. So on, we.
373 now.
Yeah, we covered 372. 373, by the way, I will mention that one of our older charters, instead of using the word liaisons there, it says what I said in Amendment 2017, liaison wording was changed from ex officio members to the extent permitted by law to simply liaisons. So that wording is a change that we've done within the last 6 years. And I don't know what conversations prompted that then.
I think because most people didn't understand ex officio.
Well, that could be, I looked it up myself.
Liaison actually has more of an understanding than ex officio.
Well, you see where I'm going with this is another one I don't think we're going to solve. This was a strange chapter, but
Would you like to know what the original charter said about this?
Sure.
It's only 2
Members of
lines.
the Board of Selectmen shall be eligible to serve as ex officio, non-voting members of ad hoc advisory committees. So this is not an ad hoc committee.
Right.
For instance, like golf, it's not an ad hoc. If they create their own committee, then have at it, kids. But on a regular, so that was how that was structured back. in
So
the
it was
day.
a different meaning at that point.
Right.
A
Well,
different direction.
They were called ex officio, even as liaison. I mean, the idea of liaison is a fairly narrowly defined, isn't
And
it?
this is only addressing ad hoc committees.
right.
Exactly.
But I'm talking about my
There-
experience.
They were not giving, but this was not giving the selectmen then the authority
Right.
to have ex officio members of,
Any
Other-
committee.
Correct.
yeah,
That's
So that was
correct.
then.
yeah.
But I mean, in my 15 years of involvement with the town, you know, I've seen the liaison role morph unbelievably, you know. And I think it's something we need to delve into a little bit further, maybe not tonight, you know, but because it's actively changing now in the charges. Liaison is where the buck stops for boards, and I don't feel good about that.
Well, I think that separate what is happening with the charter language that we have.
Mm-hmm,
You know, liaison, sole purpose of efficient communication
right,
between the select board and the affected appointed agency.
right,
Okay, sole purpose of communication between. So how it's morphing away from the charter.
That's right.
Which is its own problem.
Right.
Because it's not following the charter.
right,
So a liaison, and yes, there is a Board of Select Board policy as to how a liaison, the conduct of a
I've
liaison.
read it, yeah,
You're not supposed to be sitting at the table.
right,
If you're asked a question, you're supposed to be able to provide a clarification of something, or if someone says, what department handles that, and you can say, this department. You can answer questions, you can bring stuff back to the full board, but you aren't supposed to get actively involved in the committee
Correct.
decisions.
Correct.
And so that was written when I was on the board. It was in
Right.
existence then.
I
It's a good-
remember.
it's-
So whether it's being followed or not is different
Yeah.
than what is in the charter.
And I will agree, because I like the original language in
Yeah, you're not-
373.
The liaison
but-
is
but
supposed to
just-
not be getting involved.
Yeah, I think what bothers me, what I'm seeing recently, is the fact that, you know, the liaison is asking for an agenda item of the select board. And so if the chair of the select board says no, then the board is effectively silenced. Whereas in the past, the chair of the board would approach the chair of the select board, or however they wanted to do it, you know, to ask something to be looked into further. And now it goes to the liaison, and if they want to do something with it or not, that's the end of the road.
So bottom line is, they are not following the
The
charter.
Right.
charter,
Well,
that's the
That's
bottom
what-
line.
exactly.
So
It's well-written, it's specific, and it
I think
explains
that's
it.
pretty specific.
Yes.
They're even violating previously established policy of.
Yep.
what was
So-
then
Oh,
the
yeah,
Board
no,
of
I
Selectmen.
agree. I
So-
agree.
So trying to,
Yeah,
whatever
that's fine.
somebody is doing out there,
Yeah,
again, our focus
Yeah.
is the charter.
yeah,
And I do agree with you that
Mhm.
it has, I think, badly morphed,
I agree.
and yet the select board has let it morph
Right,
They have been
What to do.
actively involved in morphing it.
and have been
Yeah.
morphing it.
yeah,
But this is what the charter is.
I'm fine with that. I pointed out something that, may come into other aspects of something, but as far as leaving it as it is, I mean, that's how I'd like it to work, so.
Yeah.
Well, that may be a solution that will await another discussion.
Yeah,
But
All
I
right.
think that for the time being, the language is okay.
yep,
Yes.
But it might be that there needs to be maybe the concept of liaison
Right.
should be put into the bylaws.
or into the,
Administrative section of the bylaws.
ooh, that's a thought.
That's the place. This is here. Is there a section in the bylaws that should say, this is the purpose of, so maybe that's a bylaw type of change.
Correct.
Or addition. All right, you good?
Yeah,
So we're not gonna change that, but I think it needs to.
keep it on its, on the side, yeah. All right,
Madam Chair, may I make a recommendation?
You certainly may.
May we table Chapter 2 for next meeting, since it's a quarter
Yeah,
of...
I think we can.
we're not done yet.
Seven.
Yeah.
And we're not done yet with her
47.
stuff.
Oh, we're not
I am
done?
going
we
to
got more
suggest in the
pages.
future,
Oh,
we do not read every section.
but it says just Chapter 3. You have,
And the,
She's
well,
doing some bylaws.
the bylaws associated with
With
it.
the,
okay,
so
okay.
I would
okay.
say we will hold, on the old business chapter 2, we're gonna hold to next meeting. I'm good
Yes.
with that.
Okay, good, thank you.
Maybe just do one section at a time or something. Okay.
So
Well, this
we're
was a
on bylaws.
complicated section.
Right.
you
The
know,
bylaws are
it was.
complicated, yes.
Right.
It's-
Bylaws will only take a second. So the bylaws I've attached for you, and I looked at everything pretty thoroughly. These seem to be the ones, obviously, that cover administration, and I didn't find any other bleed overs.
Okay.
I had, the only problem I have is discussing 7.2. So if you ladies could look at the other 7s, and then we can talk about 7.2.
I did look at this.
Mm.
I mean, I'm okay with the authority to settle claims for $10,000 or less.
Yep, me too.
Because there is some money in the budget usually, if there's anything. Representing the town, yes, they
Yep.
have to represent the town.
Tax title's pretty cut and dried.
Some of this pretty much, yeah. The disposition, cut
Tax
and dried,
sale.
I think disposal, cut and dried.
Yep,
So
Okay.
proposed change, so we've got report of the financial condition, the warrant, the annual warrant. I
Right.
actually like that to say annual warrant. So the warrant,
okay. So, said report shall state what expenditures have been made and what balance of appropriations, if any, remains unexpended, and shall contain the warrant for the next annual town meeting. My memory, I don't remember if we actually have the column that shows the balance of appropriations, left over on June 30th. But what I don't believe is in the back of the warrant report that we're talking about here. I don't believe I see revenue in there, and I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to glance at a few. But what I'm suggesting is that, again, here I go, I can't help it, that we further define. I've noticed that different TAs put in different types of financial operating budgets in the back of the warrant. And I'm suggesting, and we don't have to solve it tonight, if people are interested, I could do a little more thinking about it, but I'm suggesting that one we define more, because I don't feel I'm getting the information I want from the back of the warrant.
well, I'm the one on the select board at the time that pushed to put the revenue page.
Is it still there?
It is not.
Okay, good.
And I had the revenue
Yep.
page in there as to, it comes from here and there, where the revenue comes from.
Right,
In order to spend the money,
yep,
and I noticed that a few, 2-3 years ago, the revenue page vanished. And I
Mhm.
think that's awful.
Yes.
Me too.
Because here
Yes.
you are saying, yes, I'd like to spend $85 billion on something. Oh, well, where does the money come
Right.
from? Well, it's coming from here and here. You don't put any revenue information.
Right.
So I find that very disturbing.
I do too. So you see what I'm trying to say, is I feel that report
Disturbed
Um,
persons, whatever. was going to say.
where it says financial report, where is that?
Right.
It says the financial condition of the town at close of the fiscal year.
Well,
And the
said
close of the
Said
fiscal year.
report, said
Yeah.
report.
Yeah. So what do you think about adding, see, this already says expenditures and balance of appropriations. So I mean, I would at least want to add the word revenue, if nothing else. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'd really want to put in there. I definitely would want to put in revenue.
And we actually took care of the notice of all newly created staff positions included in the budget, proposed budget. We're already taking care of that somewhere else, that articles
Right.
have to have that. So I don't think we need that.
No, it's just
Yeah.
was an alternative ad because not everybody agrees with you.
I think I think we had a consensus of the group. So if one person doesn't agree, it's still a consensus.
That's right. You certainly do have that.
And I don't know
So-
if it's going to be, how it'll,
Yeah.
somebody else will think.
I was just saying, if somebody really wanted
Does
it.
anybody here disagree with that?
I'm sorry, what?
Does anyone here disagree with that?
Somebody-
Separate articles.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm the
Yeah.
chart person. I like the chart in Article 4.
And we were happy with the chart, but we wanted a separate article.
Right, fine, whatever, but let's not go there. You know, I'm just saying that if somebody was like me, this is where they would put it.
I think I agree with you that work on that language somewhat.
Okay.
Because it also should have revenues in there.
Definitely should have revenue. If you want me to give that just a little bit further thought and send you an email about defining that
Well, I
financial
think we can
report.
put it into the next agenda.
Okay, yep,
But I think that, I'm not so sure balance of appropriations.
Neither am I.
Because by the time
Yeah.
June 30 comes, it's June 30, 2022, which is already gone.
Right, yeah.
So it's in free cash, so really,
I agree.
plus it's going to generate more confusion than it would.
Yeah,
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 because
no.
there really isn't any appropriation.
Right.
left.
Well, and the
When the year
appropriation
is
change,
closed.
the balance of appropriations changes every day.
Yeah,
That would be
but I
the
think
most
revenue belongs in there.
revenue for sure.
definitely.
How are we doing on revenue? Is
I
that-
don't
That's
know.
another one. Well, I'm just saying, I think revenue would be a good one.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll bring that back.
Print the cherry sheets in there.
Oh, they're not even worth writing down anymore. I mean, they're so minuscule.
No, and that's the point.
Yeah,
That is the point. But also, I think the chart on the revenues that goes through how you get to real estate taxes for the 2.5% increase, that's an interesting thing. How are you getting from here to there, and what does 2.5 mean? Because there's stuff in there that I think is, we don't put any of that in the warrant either.
right.
And I think the people who would look at it,
Well, according to the way this is written, it's actually a report to the town that includes the warrant.
Right,
yeah,
It's not really the warrant. It's
Right.
part of
Mhm.
a report to the taxpayers.
That's a good thing to be reminded of, yep. All right.
so that's good.
Excellent.
Okay, so that's
So
it.
for
Did I
next
do
year-
okay, ladies?
So next week also, we will be some whatever, additional stuff for chapter 3, as we talked about.
Yeah.
We're probably getting really close to the time when we're going to have to button this up for sending
I know.
I think
recommendations.
so. Which is, under new business, a discussion on updating and creating a committee charge. I did draft what looked like an interesting committee charge, and I didn't bring it. But I think that I'd like to put that on the next
I
agenda
agree.
to,
Our
how would we
committee-
like our committee charge to be? Because who knows what it is at this point? Where is it? And should we do a charge?
And why do we care?
Could
Our
I-
charge is in the charter.
It is,
The
but the charge itself, I think, having a charge that reiterates the charter is a good idea. Before somebody writes one for
Right,
us.
That's just where I was
That's
thinking,
right.
because
Before someone writes one for
Right.
us.
yeah, they're already trying to,
I
They're all
understand,
signed.
I understand perfectly. However, whatever they write or whatever rewrite, a charge is in the charter.
Yep.
Okay.
So
But
they're
that's
not-
the charter, but maybe we need bylaws for the charter. Proceed.
So, did everybody get the original
Yes.
thing? Anita also and Deb?
What's that? No.
The original
What-
thing.
Thank
Well,
you.
this is, we ferreted out your charter from 1996. I think I gave this to you at that meeting.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
And I
not,
have it.
Just so you have it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a,
It wasn't easy to get to, so.
but what
Really, I've
counts
never seen this.
is what is in our current charter. So I am suggesting that, and I did start doing a draft of a current committee charge, rather than have someone else do it for us. I understand our charge is in the charter, but there are also other regulatory committees that get a charge, even though they're in the charter, they have the expanded duties and responsibilities. So what is in our charter now is very small, so expanding it.
okay.
Yep, so that's next week, our next meeting.
Which
Okay,
is,
we're gonna hold, because it is getting late at this point, we're gonna hold chapter 2 review, we're gonna have some additional language. Would you
I'll email you,
that to
yes.
everyone?
Yes,
So we'll have
yes.
it.
Yep.
The webpage has been corrected finally.
Yay.
Okay. For next meeting, request for future agenda items, we talked about the tenure issue. We're gonna add chapter 3, chapter 2 are gonna go in there, and possibly a committee charge. So I think that, I will try to get, I know that I'm chapter 4, which is town administration and town administrator and town administration. And I'll try to get it out before so everybody can read it. And then we can talk about. So, to do that, I also would like to, on the future business, but current stuff, is a report to the select board. When? Because with all this stuff, we still have a lot to go through. Do we want to do a preliminary report that covers, basically, say, the first 5 chapters?
Can I answer?
Yeah, I'm asking the question. So just, do we want to do that and have a preliminary
Yes.
to see how much they're going to ignore us? No, what do they think? So chapters 1 through 5 goes from preamble, form of government, town meeting, select board, town administrator, and town administration organization.
Yes, we don't want to wait until the end, give it all at once. I agree.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that we do that, but that you also add on chapters 8, 9, and 10. I looked at them. They have financial matters in 9 that relate back to the first 5. And they aren't terribly extensive, but, that's got the one about the finance committee and their duties and stuff like that. So, we don't have to iron that out, but that we consider skipping over the committee ones and switching down to that. But I also wondered, since, articles are due in by the second week in February or whatever. In timing in general, it seems to me that, we should have something to the select board in February. And I was going to ask if we thought maybe we should have an extra meeting or 2, because we still have a lot to cover as far as reviewing and putting a report
There's nothing
together.
that says we have to give a report on the entire review
No,
between now and town meeting.
but I'm just talking about up to 5
Yeah.
and the 8, 9, 10
Yeah.
by February.
Well, the problem by February is articles have to be in by mid-February.
Right.
So a report to them by mid-February isn't going to get any articles into the warrant,
Okay,
period.
yeah.
So, because it's going to be, we have to think about this, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah. And the person that we hired for $75,000, whose name I still don't know, because I still can't get an answer to that question, because that would be information, and God forbid we're gonna get that. That person hasn't finished their review, or even started, whoever they are. So, I don't think we're gonna see anything for this town.
Meeting.
I
Next
agree.
town
And I
meeting.
think we should submit a report
I agree.
addressing what we have done
Right.
Yes.
So far.
by the middle of December.
Yeah, that's a
And I
good
think
idea.
What we have done, what we recommend out of what we have done. Our business is to do an ongoing review of the charter. So we've gotten from here to here, and this is what we've found,
Right.
plus a few extras. And send our recommendations in.
I'm with you, I'm not with you on the date.
Well, that was kind of arbitrary, but.
Yeah, okay,
But
but
we
you know,
need to be writing that report
that's
Which
right.
we are doing.
by really January.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
Except
thinking,
Linda's already got it half written. so-
that's why I'm thinking that we may need an additional meeting.
Okay, well, rather than additional meeting, let's deal with the issue of, do we, or do, you see, I'm trying to get one thing accomplished at a time, than
Okay.
trotting off into, the 17th step. First step, do we want to do a preliminary report that gets through the first 5, I don't know, however many we are going to add to it, and say, because I agree with you, Sandy,
What do you mean by preliminary?
this is where we are at this point.
Right.
A progress
We've done
report.
A progress report.
Yes.
We've done chapters here to here. We
December
still
to
have
August
more to
1.
do, but these are our findings so far to date.
Well, that would be.
That's what I call
Fine,
preliminary.
I wouldn't call that a preliminary, I'd call it an annual report.
No,
Okay.
progress. It's, how we're
It's
progressing.
our annual report.
Right.
This is what,
I
this
agree.
is what we've done, these are the things we're recommending. Love and
Right.
Kisses, your friendly neighborhood bylaw charter review committee.
The annual report was the one that goes into the annual report.
It's our
book.
annual report to the Board of Selectmen.
Yes,
It's our recommendations.
some recommendations at this point.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying but on our review, which is the entire charter, we'd say, we've gone through these sections so far,
Right.
and we have more work to do, and this is where we are, and this is what our recommendations so far, and we still have to do these sections. More to come?
I think all we really need to send them is our recommendations.
Right.
I don't think I'd report to them what we've done our homework.
Yeah,
I think we
Which
just,
is what-
we just give them our recommendations.
which is what I've started to write,
Yeah,
and it's our recommendations, but it's also, we're not gonna finish all of these sections by January. So that's
no.
why I'm calling it a progress report. This is where we are,
well,
up to date.
we don't really need to give them a progress report as much as we need to give them our recommendations. Is that
That's
not
true.
correct?
Can I?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, no, it's her job.
Yes?
No, I'm just going to lean a little towards Sandy's side, just a little. Only because, the committee reviews parts of the charter every year, and the way I look at it is these first 5, maybe one down there, is the part of the charter that we reviewed this year. And that's it.
And I'm good with that.
Yeah.
That is, this is what we reviewed, here's our report. I'm not sure I'd put it in February, I'd be more inclined to put it in by the beginning of January.
Oh, I'm
That's
with
how-
you.
So,
I was just trying to
I think
be,
we can do that.
yep,
That's why I said mid-December, to
Do
get this
we-
done.
I don't think we're gonna get through all the rest of these sections.
Would
We
it
only
be
have one more
we're only
meeting.
doing 1 to 5.
Would it be
We
reasonable?
won't do 1 to 5.
Would it be reasonable just to say it's November, we have one meeting in December
Correct.
to decide what we want to send to the Board of Selectmen
Yeah,
from the work we've done so far?
yeah.
Would that be, that's,
I think that, to do that, but one of the big sections is town administrator
Yeah,
and town
gotta have it.
organization.
Gotta
So
have it.
there's gonna have to be,
The reason we gotta have it is because so many of the preceding sections, like town meeting and select board, intermingle with the TA. So, I feel that we have to, I
All right.
didn't
No, that's-
review,
You got it.
I didn't
agree with
review
you.
number 5, but, 4 at least.
so I think that's our report.
Okay, that makes sense.
Do we want, and I agree with you that we should probably have one more, if not 2 more meetings. Because if we're gonna put in a report by January 1st, and I'm picking that date, if we do town administrator and town admin, we've got some other hanging things here
Right.
that we're not gonna get through that in one meeting. So, would we like to have additional meetings.
Like? Or should we?
Well, like, yeah, I get you. I don't know about like, but should we?
I mean,
We're
I
gonna
think,
get something done.
So our next regular meeting would be when?
It's the 12th.
It's the 12th
December
of December.
12th.
Okay.
you know, this is gonna be poured over, and we certainly all want it to look professional and lovely for all the work put in.
So December 12th is a meeting.
What about
Well-
November 28th?
About what? Oh, November 28th?
So do we want to have a meeting in 2 weeks so that I can put together town administrator review, which I still have some work to do on it, and schedule something for the 28th that at least starts that process and cleans up these other few sections?
Okay.
Can we do that?
We can, I can. Can you?
The 28th?
Yeah.
28th?
It's a Tuesday.
Everybody good?
As far as I know right now, I am, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And then you're gonna schedule, we're gonna schedule one in December on the 12th.
Right,
Yes,
leave that one.
we'll leave that one alone.
I
And
think,
what I can do is I've started writing a report.
Probably need to see if this room is available, though, on the 28th.
Yeah, well,
That would be the other thing.
if we have to meet somewhere else, we
Yeah.
will.
Okay, all right.
So I can do tomorrow, I can check the room.
is there anything that anybody can help you with writing or anything?
Oh, writing by committee is always such.
I
fun.
know it's not, so that's why I'm asking, you know. Uh,
No, I mean, once I thought about a format. And
Okay,
I've been cutting and pasting and sticking stuff in.
all right,
And, you know, so I can take the stuff that we've done today, stick it in there,
okay.
and,
If you come to any sections where you know, just hit a wall and just want to say stuff like, Noreen, can you look up some stuff on this one for
I
me?
will certainly do
Then,
that.
you know, feel free.
Okay, that sounds good.
We'd
We
like to
should
help.
probably plan the next meeting on the 28th and the 12th, are probably gonna be 2-hour meetings to get through this and get done. Yes?
Yeah.
Do we want to start earlier?
Ooh, that's
The
a,
earliest I could probably start would be 4:30 because, well, that Tuesday is probably okay. I can start earlier, the 28th. Like the December meeting, that's my weekend afternoon, and I get out about 4:15.
Okay.
well, that's our regular meeting anyway, so we
That's
could
our
leave
regular
that one. Do we want to do the
That might be-
28th?
Might be a little,
Do we want to do, can people do the 4 o'clock on the 28th?
Yes.
I can.
Yes.
All right, let's make it 4.
Yay, that's good. Perfect.
And I'm bringing hot coffee to pour over my feet the
Oh
next
my
time.
God. What are they-
Hold it.
You know,
It
you
sure
know what
is.
Joan Rivers said about this.
Huh?
You know what Joan Rivers said about this?
What?
About what?
The reason they keep these rooms so cold is so we'll keep better.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I am now beyond shivering, I'm jiggling.
Yeah, I'm freezing.
It's gotta be 20 degrees in this room.
Is this the new way to get us out of this room?
I guess
Turn the
so.
heat
They
off?
use, some banks used to do this to we examiners. When we
Oh.
used to go
Yes,
and they
we've
used to
done it
put
to
us in a
auditors,
cold,
too.
oh my God, yeah, you know.
Okay,
So
this
we
sounds
adjourning the
good.
meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Those of you
7:04.
who don't want to can stay here and freeze.
Has anybody?
Turn off the
Sign that.
machine
Turn
first.
off the machine.
Well,
Thank
that was
you.
a lot. There's a lot to get through.